Have you ever noticed how something that once seemed like a mild stomach bug now takes a lot more out of you than it used to? Maybe it started with a bit of cramping, a sudden urgency, or a day or two of diarrhea that left you completely drained. You thought it was just a little stomach trouble, right? But then it lingered. Maybe you felt weak for days. Or worse, you ended up at the doctor, or even in the hospital. You're not alone. And you're not imagining things. As we get older, even the simplest illnesses can feel a whole lot harder on the body. And today, we're talking about something most people brush off, but for seniors, it's no small matter. I'm talking about dysentery. Yes, dysentery. It might sound like an old-fashioned word, something from a textbook or history book. But let me tell you, it's very real, and it's more dangerous than most people think, especially after 60. Now, I know dysentery isn't a word we hear every day, but it simply means an infection in the intestines that leads to severe diarrhea, often with blood, mucus, and a lot of discomfort. But here's what makes it so sneaky: it can strike quietly. It can look like just a case of bad food, or a little virus. And because we often try to tough it out, we don't always catch it early. That's where things can get serious, fast. In this video, I want to have a heart-to-heart with you. We're going to explore why dysentery is particularly risky as we age, how to recognize the early signs before it takes a toll, and, most importantly, what you can do to protect yourself. You'll also hear some real-life examples, and I'll share simple, practical steps you can start taking today to stay strong, safe, and confident in your health. So, let's sit down together, just you and me, and start by talking about what makes dysentery more dangerous for older adults. Because when you understand what's really happening inside your body, you're already halfway to protecting it. As we age, our immune system naturally weakens. It's nothing to be ashamed of, it's just a fact of life. Think of your immune system like a neighborhood watch. When you were younger, it had plenty of energy, lots of helpers watching every street corner. But now, it's still there, still doing its job, just a bit slower, a little less alert. So when something like dysentery comes knocking, your body might not respond as quickly or strongly as it once did. And it's not just the immune system. Many seniors are dealing with other health conditions, maybe diabetes, heart issues, or kidney problems. You might be taking medications that affect your fluid levels or your digestion. All of these things make you more vulnerable to the dangerous effects of severe diarrhea, things like dehydration, loss of electrolytes, and low blood pressure. Let's pause here for a moment and think about dehydration. It doesn't sound very scary, does it? But in older adults, dehydration can sneak up quickly and quietly. You don't always feel thirsty the way you used to. By the time you notice something's off, dry mouth, dizziness, fatigue, you might already be seriously dehydrated. And when dysentery hits, the fluid loss can be fast and severe. It's not just about needing more water, it's about your organs struggling to function. Your heart has to work harder. Your kidneys have to filter more with less. Your brain gets foggy. You might even fall. One gentleman I knew, named Mr. Tran, was 73 when he got what he thought was food poisoning. He didn't want to bother his kids, didn't think it was serious. But within 2 days, he was so weak he could barely get out of bed. Turned out, he had amoebic dysentery. He spent 5 days in the hospital. Thankfully, he recovered, but he told me later, "I didn't think something like diarrhea could almost take me out." That's the thing, when you're older, what used to be a nuisance can become a serious threat. But it's not all doom and gloom. The good news is, there are steps you can take to avoid dysentery altogether, or at least catch it early before it causes real harm. One of the first and most important steps is keeping an eye on what you eat and drink. Contaminated food or water is the #1 cause of dysentery. And let's be honest, we sometimes get a little more relaxed about leftovers or street food, especially when we've been eating something our whole life. But bacteria don't care how long you've lived or how strong your stomach used to be. They're just looking for a way in. So what can you do? Start by making sure your drinking water is clean. If you're traveling, or if you live somewhere where the tap water isn't always reliable, boil it first. or use a filter. Keep an eye on raw vegetables, especially ones that are hard to wash thoroughly, like lettuce or herbs. And if something smells off or looks odd, trust your gut, don't eat it. I once visited a friend who offered me some homemade pickled vegetables. They looked fine, but I noticed the jar lid wasn't sealed tight. I politely passed. She later called to say she and her husband both got sick. That tiny detail, a loose lid, was enough for bacteria to grow. Food safety sounds basic, but it can be a lifesaver. So can hand washing. It's such a simple habit, but many infections, including dysentery, spread from hand to mouth. We touch our faces without even thinking about it. And if we've been gardening, handling money, petting animals, or even using public restrooms, that bacteria can travel fast. Now, I'm not saying you have to live in fear or sanitize everything. But washing your hands with soap and warm water after using the bathroom, before eating, and after touching anything that might be contaminated, it makes a bigger difference than you'd think. Especially if your grandkids are visiting. Children can be adorable little germ carriers, can't they? Let's also talk about something that's easy to overlook. Our digestive system slows down with age. You might have noticed changes. Maybe you're more prone to constipation, or your stomach doesn't handle spicy food the way it used to. That slower digestion can also make it harder for your body to flush out harmful bacteria quickly. So once something gets in, it tends to stick around longer and do more damage. That's why keeping your gut healthy is so important. Things like yogurt with live cultures, fermented foods, and a fiber-rich diet can help maintain a strong digestive system. I'll talk more about that in a moment, but just know this, your gut is your first line of defense. The healthier it is, the better your chances of staying safe from infections like dysentery. And if you ever do start feeling symptoms, diarrhea that doesn't stop after a day or two, especially if there's blood or mucus, or if you feel unusually tired or dizzy, don't wait. It's not being dramatic. It's being smart. A quick visit to your doctor could save you days of suffering, or even save your life. Now that we've looked at how dysentery enters the body and why it's so risky for folks over 60, it's time to dig a little deeper. Because the more we understand what's happening inside, the more power we have to take control of our health. You see, dysentery isn't just about the discomfort, it's about what it does to the body when it's left unchecked. And when we're over 60, every day we wait to take it seriously can make a big difference. Now, earlier I mentioned something really important, your gut health. Let's talk a little more about that, because this is one of those things we don't always think about until something goes wrong. But your gut is actually one of your body's most important defenders. Think of it like the gatekeeper to the rest of your system. When it's strong, it can fight off harmful invaders like the bacteria and parasites that cause dysentery. But when it's weak, those invaders can waltz right in and make themselves at home. So, how do we keep our gut strong? It's not complicated, and it doesn't involve expensive supplements or fancy diets. One of the best things you can do is eat foods that support your natural gut bacteria. These are the good guys, the helpful microbes that live in your intestines and help keep everything running smoothly. You've probably heard about probiotics, right? They're found in foods like yogurt, kefir, kimchi, sauerkraut, things that are naturally fermented. These little powerhouses help maintain the right balance of bacteria in your gut, which can boost your immunity and make it harder for harmful bugs to take over. If you're not used to these foods, try adding just a small spoonful each day. Your body will adjust, and over time, you might even notice better digestion, less bloating, and a stronger resistance to stomach issues. But feeding the good bacteria is only half the battle. You also need to give them the fuel they need to thrive. That's where fiber comes in. Think of fiber as food for your gut garden. It helps keep things moving, clears out waste, and creates a healthy environment for your gut bacteria to grow. Whole grains, fruits, vegetables, beans, these are all great sources. And if chewing raw veggies is tough on your teeth, lightly steamed ones work just as well. Now, while we're on the topic of what goes in your body, we also have to talk about water. It might sound obvious, but many people over 60 simply don't drink enough water. And that's a real problem, especially when you're dealing with something like dysentery. Diarrhea causes the body to lose water rapidly, and if you're already dehydrated to begin with, it can lead to serious complications. Think dizziness, low blood pressure, even fainting. Not fun, and definitely not safe. So how much water is enough? A good rule of thumb is to sip throughout the day, not just when you feel thirsty. By the time you're thirsty, your body is already playing catch up. Keep a water bottle nearby. Add a slice of lemon or cucumber if you like flavor. Herbal teas count too. And if you're losing fluids due to diarrhea, adding a pinch of salt and a spoonful of sugar to your water can help your body absorb it better, like a homemade electrolyte drink. Simple, but effective. Now, let's shift gears and talk about something a bit more personal, knowing your body and trusting your instincts. This might sound like a small thing, but in my experience, it's one of the most powerful tools you have. You've lived a long life. You know what feels normal and what doesn't. So when something feels off, when you're more tired than usual, when your appetite disappears, when your stomach pain feels sharper than it should, listen to that inner voice. Don't brush it aside. One of the challenges many older adults face is this sense of not wanting to be a burden. I've heard it time and again. I didn't want to bother anyone, or I thought it would pass. But your health matters. You matter. And speaking up early, whether it's to your doctor, your spouse, your kids, can make all the difference. A woman I knew, Miss Hoa, 68 years old, was on a trip to visit family in a rural village. She started having diarrhea and stomach pain, but she didn't want to interrupt the visit. 3 days later, she fainted in the bathroom. The diagnosis? Bacterial dysentery with severe dehydration. She told me later, I thought I could push through it. I didn't realize how quickly things could turn. Thankfully, she recovered. But her story is a reminder for all of us, don't wait. If something feels wrong, it probably is. And that brings us to something else that's worth mentioning. Dysentery doesn't always show up the way you expect. Sometimes there's no blood. Sometimes there's no fever. You might just feel drained, or have a mild stomach ache that lingers. That's why paying attention to the pattern is so important. If you've had loose stools for more than a day or two, or if you're running to the bathroom more often than usual, take note. Track it. Because when you give your doctor accurate information, they can help you faster and better. Speaking of doctors, let's also touch on medication. Many seniors are already taking several prescriptions. And it's important to know that some medications can either mask the symptoms of dysentery or make things worse. For example, certain antidiarrheal drugs can slow down your gut, which sounds helpful, but in the case of an infection, that means the bacteria stay inside longer. So never self-medicate without checking with your doctor first. What works for a teenager with a mild stomach bug may not be right for someone in their 70s with a heart condition. I know, it can feel like a lot. But it's not about living in fear, it's about being informed. Taking small steps. Listening to your body. And giving yourself the care and attention you deserve. And while we're on the topic of self-care, let's not forget the role that rest plays in recovery. It's tempting to push through illness, especially if you've got responsibilities or people counting on you. But your body needs energy to fight infection. So give yourself permission to rest. To sleep. To say, I'm not feeling well, I need to slow down. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. Your body is still working for you, even if it's slower than it once was. It's still healing, still protecting you. But it needs your help. It needs you to give it the right food, the right fluids, the right rest, and the right attention when something's not right. Let's keep this conversation going, because there's more you can do, not just to recover from dysentery, but to prevent it altogether. And that's where we're headed next. Because prevention is always better than cure, especially when we're older and our bodies don't bounce back as quickly as they used to. But the good news is that preventing dysentery isn't about living in a bubble or avoiding the things you enjoy. It's really about being mindful of a few simple habits that, once they become part of your routine, feel just as natural as brushing your teeth in the morning. let's start with something many of us overlook: hand washing. I know, it sounds so basic. But you'd be surprised how often people skip it or rush through it, especially at home where everything feels clean. The truth is, bacteria and parasites that cause dysentery often spread through our hands. From handling raw food, touching doorknobs, or using the bathroom, it's easy to carry invisible germs from one place to another. So here's the trick: wash your hands with warm water and soap for at least 20 seconds, especially before eating and after using the toilet. It's not about being paranoid, it's about being careful. I know folks who like to sing a little tune while washing, just to make sure they do it long enough. Happy birthday twice is the classic, but feel free to get creative, whatever helps make it a habit. Now, let's talk about food. As we get older, many of us rely on quick meals, frozen dinners, leftovers, maybe something from the market that's already cooked. That's perfectly fine, but food safety becomes even more important as we age. Our immune systems just aren't as sharp as they used to be, and what a younger person might shake off in a day could send an older adult to the hospital. Make sure your food is properly cooked, especially meats and eggs. Don't leave leftovers sitting out for hours, and when in doubt, toss it out. I once knew a gentleman who said, "I hate wasting food, so I'll just risk it." But he learned the hard way that food poisoning and dysentery aren't worth saving a few dollars. Your health is worth more than anything in the fridge. And if you ever eat out or buy food from street vendors, just take a quick look around. Is the place clean? Are the workers wearing gloves? Are they using clean water to rinse things? Trust your instincts. If something feels off, it's okay to walk away. Speaking of water, this is another big one. Clean water is one of the easiest ways to prevent dysentery, and one of the most overlooked. At home, you're probably fine if you're using tap water that's filtered or safe. But when you're traveling, especially to areas with different sanitation standards, it's smart to be cautious. Always drink bottled or boiled water. Avoid ice cubes if you don't know how they were made. And remember, even things like washing fruits or brushing your teeth can expose you to germs if the water isn't clean. I know this might sound like a lot, but once you build these habits, they just become part of your day. And what you gain in return is peace of mind and protection from something that can be a real danger, especially as we age. Now let's talk about something even more powerful than prevention. And that's connection. You see, one of the most dangerous things about being sick, especially with something like dysentery, is not the illness itself, but going through it alone. Too many older adults suffer in silence, thinking, "I don't want to bother anyone," or "I'll be fine in a few days." But isolation can turn a minor illness into a serious emergency. So here's my advice: build your circle. It doesn't have to be big. Maybe it's a neighbor who checks in once a week, a friend you call every evening, a family member who knows how you're feeling day to day. When you're not feeling well, having someone who knows your usual routine can spot changes faster and help you get care sooner. And if you're a caregiver, or someone who lives with or visits an elderly parent or friend, keep an eye out. If they're suddenly weak, not eating, or using the bathroom more than usual, don't ignore it. Your attention could be what catches the warning signs early. Now, I want to take a moment and just speak from the heart. If you've made it to this point in the video, I want you to know something: you're doing something wonderful for yourself. You're taking the time to learn, to care, and to protect your health. That's not just wise, it's inspiring. I know there are so many messages out there telling people over 60 what they can't do anymore, that their best years are behind them. But I believe, truly believe, that the years after 60 can be some of the most powerful, purposeful years of your life. Yes, there are challenges. Yes, our bodies change. But knowledge is power. And every small choice you make, from washing your hands, to drinking more water, to asking for help when you need it, that's a step towards staying strong, staying independent, and living with confidence. So if you're watching this and thinking, "I've had a few stomach problems lately," or "I'm not sure if that last illness was food poisoning or something more," don't brush it off. Talk to your doctor. Pay attention to your body. And give yourself the same care and attention you'd give to someone you love. You've earned that care. You deserve it. And if this video has helped you, even just a little bit, I'd love to hear from you. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your story might help someone else. If you've dealt with dysentery before, tell us what helped. Or if you've discovered a great home remedy or prevention tip, pass it on. We're all in this together. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you want more tips like this, things that matter to folks over 60, things that keep you healthy, happy, and strong. Because here's the truth, aging isn't something to fear. It's something to embrace. And with the right knowledge, the right habits, and a little support, you can live these years not just longer, but better. Here's to living your best life, at any age.